Thanks for joining us, Tara.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here.
Tara is joining us from London, correct?
Not quite London. I'm just north of London in a little village called Nebworth.
Oh, very cool. Tara and I connected after Tara's publicist found the podcast, and she said, "Oh, you have got to interview Tara. She has a cool quit, and even cooler thing that you did post-quit, which I will let you tell everybody else about." And she is also the author of this book that only people in the YouTube version of this can see that I'm holding up, but it's called A Life Less Throwaway, and we'll talk about that as well. But I have to, on a personal note, tell you, Tara, you are the first person to have a legit publisher send me an advanced copy of the book, and I felt very important and flattered.
You are very important.
Oh, you're sweet. You're very sweet. I was so ridiculously excited when it showed up, and I had to post it on Instagram. I'm like, oh, I think Penguin just sent me a book.
Hooray!
It was very cool. Okay, Tara, let's take it back to the time you were in advertising.
Yes, I was in the evil, murky world of advertising, and I'd been unhappy for a while for various reasons. I think one of the reasons was because I was essentially a chocolate pusher to children.
Wow.
One of my last kind of jobs that they asked me to do was, can you increase the chocolate consumption of children from 1 kilogram a year to 2 kilograms a year? And I was like, oh my God, no, I can't. Not without killing myself. So I was rather miserable, and whenever I kind of brought up the fact that I was miserable, I kind of got this reaction, which was like, I think you're in the wrong industry. If you care about this stuff, if you care about racist casting, or if you care about the products that we're promoting, they're not necessarily being the best, then you're in the wrong industry and you should get out of it. So I started to take that seriously and plotting my way out.
I love that. I love that your actual job was kind of as hilarious as I think somebody would have Office Space made it up to make more obese. Could you work on that?
It's a real job, yeah.
Somebody was giving that assignment. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me exactly what maybe signs that your body or mind was giving you that oh no, this is just soul sucking. I have to do something else?
Well, I think it's always a bad sign if you find it so hard to get up in the mornings that you literally feel like you've been hit by a truck, and you're 3 times heavier than your actual kilogram size. I think that's probably a bad sign. I think general anxiety. I think a really low point was when I was quite stressed at work as well as being quite miserable, and I stepped out onto the road from the sidewalk, and a car came by really quickly and that I'd missed, and obviously it didn't hit me. I kind of stepped back, but I was like, oh man, it didn't hit me. I still have to go to work. I was like, if I'd just been a bit injured, I could have turned around and gone home.
Right.
So I think when you're wishing for a car accident, it's probably time to change your career.
I completely agree with that. That is not a subtle thing to wish for. Okay, so you've gotten to the point where you would rather be hit by a car than go back and push more chocolate on children.
Yes.
Where did you go from there? You had a conversation with your boss, correct?
I did. I had an idea for what I wanted to do. And I basically went to my boss and I was like, look, I'm unhappy. I have lots of creative pursuits that I would really like to explore. I want to write books, and, I want to start this, online blog, and I'm just not getting time to do that because I'm spending all hours and sometimes weekends at the office, and I just feel drained. And I was like, look, I think I'm actually going to go mad on you and not be able to do any work if you don't give me some time for the things that I find really important. So I had this conversation and I asked for a sabbatical. Essentially, I was like, can you give me 6 months and I'll go off and do my thing, and then maybe I'll get that out of my system and I can come back and be evil with you again. And he said no to the sabbatical. So I had to rethink. And I actually came up with a better idea, which is, can I go half-time which is that can I come in to the office every morning, get there by 9, stay for kind of 4 hours, and leave at lunchtime, and then pursue the things that I wanted to pursue in the afternoon. And I thought that would work better than kind of coming in like 2.5 days a week, because I'm quite bad at getting up in the mornings anyway. And I'm like, I think that if I was given free reign over my time in the mornings, then I might just sleep in. So I can basically use my day job as an alarm clock, gets me out of bed, gets me up, gets me going. And then when lunchtime comes around, I will be beautifully free to pursue my passions.
And how much were you making at this point? You definitely took a salary cut, correct?
I did have to take I was going 50% in terms of time. And so I thought it was only fair to go 50% in terms of money. I mean, quite a lot of people said that they were getting a massively great deal out of that, because I just ended up being super efficient, getting all my work done, and they were probably getting the same amount of work out of me for the amount that they were paying me. So I think I was on £36,000, and I went down to 18,000, which is below the living wage for London for sure, which is where I was living at the time. So I did have to make some belt tightening decisions. Yeah.
Can you talk about how you made those and what kind of financial choices helped you get by on less?
Well, the good news was I had kind of come up with one of my ideas for what I wanted to do was around saving money and how buying long-lasting objects save you money. So I'd started this philosophy, which naturally meant that I was in a money-saving frame of mind. So it meant that I only bought things that I thought that I was going to have for years and years and years, and which meant that I didn't have to replace things nearly as often. So I'd buy one really high quality item of clothing and wear that again and again and again, rather than spending on fast fashion. I didn't spend any money on transport because I biked absolutely everywhere, rain, snow, sun, etc. And then the main tightening, to be honest, was food and going out. And so I just had to make the sacrifice to kind of cook cheap things at home and have less of a social life, to be honest.
And how long did you do that halftime arrangement?
It was, I think, almost a year. Yeah. So it was quite a long time. And I jealously guarded my time. I was like, look, this arrangement is only going to work if I get time in lieu, if I go over my half days. So I wrote down every hour, every half an hour that I went over that time. If say there was a film shoot, you can't just skip off at lunchtime, or say you needed to do an edit and you needed to go into an edit suite and they've booked the edit suite all day, you can't say no to that. So I was like, look, I'm fine to do these extra times, but I think I need to have that time back sometime in the future, because this is all about the time. I don't care about the money. I care about the time to pursue what I want to do. And luckily they said okay to that.
I love that. Now let's take a little pause in the quitting here, because Tara is one of the special people who is quitting. I hope you can hear this trash truck that's outside. It's just like, sounds like
beautiful.
Yeah, fighting each other. Tara knew what she wanted to do. A lot of people, they have this sense of unrest. They quit, but they're not necessarily sure what comes next. Tara quit because she had, you quit because advertising was like soul sucking at some point, but you also had this other thing you wanted to get into. Can you talk a little bit about how that idea first popped up and how you morphed it into what it is now?
Sure. It all came out of a combination of having one client that wasn't as evil as the rest. They're called Le Creuset, and I don't know if you've come across Le Creuset. They are a kitchenware brand. They make these amazing kind of Dutch oven casserole dishes that your grandmother passes down to you and you pass down to your grandchildren. They're made they're made to last through apocalypses, and they're beautiful and they do their job really well. And so I was doing their advertising, so I was already thinking about them as a brand and thinking, wow, this is a brand I can actually get behind. I really like what they stand for and what they do. And then I was actually given one of their pots, and that, I would say, was the eureka moment. I mean, it's kind of sad to think that like a pot changed my life, but it did. It's an odd object to change your life. But I was using it and I was just thinking, God, I wish everything in my life was like this, that it, would last a lifetime, do its job beautifully, that it, that I just knew that a cooking pot was off my list forever. So like that was really special to me. And I just thought, well, there must be a place that sells the longest lasting items on the planet, and I'll just go there for all my shopping from now on. And when I was looking, I then didn't find it. So I was like, this really should exist. Like, this is a no-brainer. This as an idea, it should exist. And then I started thinking about the environmental implications of buying for life. The fact that if you buy something that lasts longer, you save huge amounts on your carbon emissions. And not many people talk about this. People talk about recycling and biodegradability and zero waste and that kind of thing. But if you, for example, bought a t-shirt that lasts 2 years instead of 1 year, you save 24% on your carbon emissions right there. And the more I found out about this, the more this feeling kind of built up in me. It was kind of like a kick in the stomach feeling. So whenever I read about the environment and what's happening to it, I would kind of get this kind of stomach churning feeling, like you have an idea that could help and you're not doing anything about it, you selfish person. And it, like, the idea had stalked me for maybe 2 years before I did anything about it, because I just assumed it would be one of those ideas that like I'd come up with and someone else would actually do, and then when they did it and made a success of it, I would be able to be like, yeah, I thought of that ages ago. I honestly thought that it would be that. But as time went on, I was like, I can't ignore my stomach acid anymore. Like, it's actually gnawing at me. I have to do something. So I slowly but surely started researching the best products in the world in terms of longevity, and started to put them together on a little site. And that was my plan for going half-time, is that I wanted to make this into a proper website that was helpful to people.
Amazing. I like that you not only used your intuition to know you needed to quit the first job, but you used paying attention to your intuition, which you refer to as stomach acid, which is great, because for sure that, feeling in your stomach of that indigestion, heartburn is often your body trying to tell you like, something isn't churning right with me, what's going on? And you used it to realize, no, you need to do this other thing. It was spurring you towards the next gig, which is very cool. Now you're going halftime at this point, and you've got the blog. What happens from there that led you to have to quit completely?
Well, this was a slightly exciting thing that happened. At this point, I had been struggling, to be honest, to find a way of monetizing the website. I'd kind of looked into drop shipping and warehouses, and I was like, I can't have a warehouse. Like, that's ridiculous. And talking to a friend of mine, he was like, you know what? Don't worry about monetizing. Just build something. And if people are interested, find a way of monetizing it afterwards. Just get an audience first, because you can always monetize an audience. So, you'll find out very quickly if people are interested or not. So I just started researching and building a very simple site on Squarespace. I think I spent most of 2015 on the helpline to Squarespace, crying at them because like I couldn't get the button to be the right color. I was so hopeless, like technically. that anything that went wrong, I was just like, help me, I just don't understand why the text goes big here, and like, oh, it was awful. I was such a hopeless case.
Every entrepreneur is out there feeling your pain right now, right? We have all tried to make our own website and been like, no, this is the worst.
It's so hard. It's so hard. I mean, I slowly became more and more adept at it as time went on, but like there was a lot of helpline chat, and I was always so thankful to them. They're like, please help me, and then they did, and I was just like, yes, thank you. This has been bugging me for ages. And so essentially this little site started to come together, and I started to do little bits on Twitter and Facebook talking about it. Not really very much yet. I started a petition that was kind of to get life cycle numbers on all appliances. Like, wouldn't it be great if we knew how long a washing machine was going to last? Like, there was a number on it, and when you went into a shop, it's like, that's going to last 10 years, that's going to last 15 years. So I started a petition to make this happen, and it was actually this petition that drew the attention of a journalist on Twitter. And she was like, hey, cool petition, should we talk about it? And I talked about how the idea for the petition had come out of the website and the business. And she pitched the idea around to a few newspapers. And it was the Telegraph, which is a very well-known newspaper here in the UK, one of the biggest ones, that took up the story, and it came out in January 2016. But then the Telegraph article went viral online globally, and that was absolutely mental. So suddenly I was getting emails from all over the world. We had over 600,000 people came to the site in 2 weeks. I think we had Ashton Kutcher saying he thought it was an amazing idea, which was so cool. And I was being asked to come on television and write a book, and everything was happening at once. I was like completely overwhelmed, and I couldn't even open my emails as quick as they were coming in. And it wasn't just emails saying like, come and write a book. It was like, you've spelled Dr. Martens wrong 3 times on the website, or like, you really should think about this brand, because this brand has lasted me 15 years, and we have a really like rambunctious family, and you should really look into these boots, and I don't actually value this decision that you've made here. So it was insane, because I was dealing with this and so excited, but at the same time I was having to go in every morning and write TikTok ads. I was sitting there trying to think about how I could sell more sweets to kids, and just thinking, this is the last thing on earth I want to think about. I have no interest. I am so distracted by what's going on with Buy Me Once that I couldn't care less. And so I was bitching about this fact to my family over lunch, I think, and talking about how it was so frustrating, because all I want to do is spend time working on Buy Me Once and building it, and how I felt that it could really become something now, and I just wanted to catch this wave and do something with it. And my brother, who kind of works in the city, he's always been a kind of stable and secure type, and like went straight from university, got an amazing degree, and went into the city and works in I don't understand what he does. Like I think he trades inflation bonds or something. I don't know. It's something highly technical and complicated, but he loves it, so that's great. And they pay him very well for it, which is great. And I've never been jealous of him having quite a lot of money, because I have my passions and he really loves. I don't understand it at all, but he loves the mathsy stuff that he loves, and that's great. But he was kind of feeling my pain, and he was just like, well, how much is this ad agency like paying you? I thought you'd gone half time. I was like, yeah, they're only paying me like £18,000 a year. And he's like, ugh, I'll give you £18,000 a year. Like, quit this job immediately. This is ridiculous. You shouldn't waste any more time with these fools. Like, go pursue what you want to pursue, and I'll become part of your company and invest in it, and and this will be my investment. So I got my first investor. So that was an amazing conversation over the weekend. So I texted my boss that Sunday. I was like, can we have a conversation first thing Monday morning? And I think he might have known what was coming. Yeah. It was exciting to walk into his office the next morning. I was kind of shaking with suppressed kind of excitement and the idea that I might finally be free. And I was just like, look, Nick, this has happened to me, like this insane amount of traction and interest and traffic and bonkers. There's so much potential for me to take up now, but if I let this wave kind of sweep over me, I will never know what could have happened. And I was like, I think I have to leave. And I was like, I think I have to leave today. And he was like, oh. I mean, he's a wonderful man and a lovely boss. So he kind of went, okay, I'll see what I can do. And I was like, look, I know we have projects ongoing that only really I can help with. And I was like, I commit to finishing those like in my spare time at home, but I want to leave the office today. And he made it happen for me. So from walking into the office that morning, by lunchtime, he'd sorted it all out with the rest of the team, the rest of the bosses and at the ad agency. And I got to say bye to everyone, and everyone was just like, what, huh, you're leaving? Like, you never said you were leaving. I was like, yeah, I decided this weekend I'm gonna go, and I'm not doing my notice period. I'm leaving all of you guys, and see ya. It was a great moment.
It was a great moment. I like how your quit is a combination of the burn it all down, but let's make make sure everything is in place before we do so. Which is what you need to do, because you ended up finding a way to keep those relationships intact. You said, like, if there's something ongoing, I'll be sure to do it from home. These are terms that are going to work for both of us.
Yeah.
And your boss sounds like he was pretty cool to be able to work things out by the end of the day. So that all worked very nicely. Well, I love your story. There are a few things that I loved getting out of it, which is just when you've got that inkling that you're not happy, find a way to scale things back in your primary job to free up some time, just some mental space or the resources to go on and do your next thing. But you have to make that ask. So a lot of people think I could never go half-time, or I could never take a sabbatical. And you never know. Like, you're right. He might say no to the sabbatical, but if you find a creative solution to something else, like, okay, can I work from home one day a week or something like that?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Kind of, you don't have to scale it back as much as I did. People go down to like 90%, 80%. My dad did that when he was kind of beginning to retire. He kind of took it down in sections. What I would say is just be careful about scaling back your salary and then essentially working as many hours. You have to jealously guard that time that you have said that you want off, and don't let anyone impinge on it. And if it does have to be impinged upon, make sure you get that time back.
Ooh, that's a great point. And the other thing I liked out of your story is, again, that you used your intuition to tell you what you should be doing in the next phase. And I think that will help a lot of people who might be in the, I'm not sure. Well, what does your intuition nag at you to do? Maybe that, like you said, your passion was spurred by a pot, but there were a lot of other, like you said, environmental reasons and financial reasons and reason upon reason that it's a great thing to do. And so now that we're at that point, will you tell us about the great thing that you have now started and are CEO of?
Yeah, so Buy Me Once is my baby, my brainchild that I'm having to bring up now, and it's kind of in the terrible two stage. It's having toddler tantrums, which is fine. Every phase has kind of got its own different challenges. So it's having to learn to be a grown up now, which is hard, but it's so exciting. We're like changing the whole business construct, and we've got a new website going, and I'm super proud of it. We now have 1,000 products on the site, or over 1,000, and you can go there to find the longest lasting and most sustainable things on the planet. And it's really important that we start to change our behavior from short-term buying to long-term buying. And that's essentially the mission that sits at the top of everything that we do at Buy Me Once. The mission is to change the way the world shops, to save the planet. That's, we're taking the long-term view. So any business decision is kind of not based on, well, how much money can we make in this short of time so that we can sell it to Google or whatever. It's all about, how can we make a long-term sustainable growing business that's going to make a real impact on the planet and people's behavior. So I'm super proud of it, and it's given me so many opportunities and so many challenges. I mean, personally, I've never done public speaking before. I was a writer, and essentially, I was the writer monkey in the corner coming up with puns for TikToks, and I never had to face an audience before. But when you're the CEO, people expect you to be able to speak about your stuff. So I went to Toastmasters. I would recommend that to anyone who wants to start anything. You need to be able to talk about it, and getting up in front of like the Toastmasters crowd is such a nurturing environment to try out your voice in front of an audience. And there are people there who stutter. There are people there who are so mortified they can barely get 2 words out. But week upon week they grow, and they manage to articulate what their vision is, and that's so important. So if you're thinking about starting anything, and actually if you just think about doing anything in life, to be able to talk about it is so important. So I would highly recommend Toastmasters. And then the other opportunity it's given me is to be able to write a book, which is the philosophy of Buy Me Once. So it's for anyone who looks around the house and is like, how did all this stuff get here? And, why do I never have as much money as I think I should have at the end of the month? And where does all this money go? Or anyone that cares about the environment. It's essentially a way of reassessing how we buy things and why we buy things and how to buy better and for the long term, and how that can completely revolutionize your life as it has mine.
I love it. And the book, which I have here again, if you go through it, there are exercises that help you pare things back and figure out not only what your buying list for the year is, but more like what your kind of central tenet of life is. And I really like that. So it's not just, oh, let me help you buy fewer things. There are parts of it that just help you take a more examined look at your own life, which I think is very cool. And if you thought Tara is amusing in this podcast, she is equally as amusing in the written word, because I was laughing very many times reading this. It's so well written and it's so entertaining, but so useful. So I hope everybody picks up a copy of that. Tara, cannot thank you enough for being with us today.
Oh, it's been brilliant. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And for everybody else out there, until next time, happy quitting.